Hey guys, Dan here with our special guest Merlin.
Hey.
We're doing Dan Does Disney, and we're going to talk about Cinderella today.
Cinderella?
From 1950. This is a great movie that we're going to discuss, but first...
Spoilers? A great movie.
All right, I think people know generally it's a good movie. But I want to, first of all, plug your channel, because I have you on this channel so much, and we rarely get to talk about the Merlin cast, Merlin channel.
Plug in the channel.
So
I think you were on the most recent.
I was on the most recent one that we did just the other night, which was very fun. And you always have interesting guests. You always have fun conversation.
I try.
You do various. You know how my channel does. Dan Does Disney and the food reviews and the TV reviews. You have Drinkable Alchemy. You have the Merlin cast. Then you have Joe Loves Movies. You have the Flamethrower bit. You have a lot of segments.
I do.
And it's really probably where I got my ideas for all the different segments because you do it so well.
Cool. Thank
But
you.
I would love for everyone to check that out. Also, we've got to give props to the set design here and the lighting today. We are at your place instead of my place.
Yeah, which
and
is
Honey Lemon just sort of. I said, please help us.
She
make
helps.
this look good.
It was like, look, you can, she pushed me to kind of improve my videos, but I guess because Dan's like, this is one of mine, we got to take advantage of some of the stuff I have in the back.
Yes, you have great lighting rig, and so she helped us set up the tripod and angle the camera and everything. So big thanks to her as well before we get started here. So, all right, so here's how Dan Does Disney works. If you've not seen one yet, which, by the way, please check them out. This is number... It will say it in the title, but I forget. I think it might be number 16. But I'm doing all the Disney movies, live action and animated. Animated-wise, I think this is number 10 or something like that. But I've been doing some of them with Tim, some of them with you.
Mm-hmm.
And how it works is I kind of talk about the background of the movie itself, money, etc., and then the guest will start talking about the synopsis of the film, and then we'll kind of go back and forth on what we think of it. And then at the very end, I will give you what I think of the DVD. And this DVD has a ton of extras to talk about. So
I gotta say,
yeah.
Disney usually has pretty good packages, but that is a beautiful looking cover.
It's beautiful, isn't it? And here's we'll get to the DVD.
But I just want to say that
the booklet in here is really great.
Well, you got to do an unboxing.
Yeah, I actually will. So anyway, this was from 1950. They made this on a $2.9 million budget, which at the time was among the largest of the Disney projects. But this was the first one back from all of the packages. They did all the music packages, like Make My Music and Fun and Fancy Free and Three Caballeros. And a lot of that, like I've talked about with Tim, is because of the war, World War II. A lot of the animators got shipped overseas to fight. B, the U.S. government tapped them to do training videos and such with some of the Disney characters.
Gotcha.
So that's why they did all the package movies. So this was Walt's first foray back into full-length feature movies. The first one since almost a decade ago. Bambi, I believe, was the previous one.
So it was the war effort that diverted a lot of movies.
Yeah. Well, and
makes sense.
And we talked about this when it first happened. I think Dumbo was maybe the first one that had issues because of this, but because of the war, their foreign markets were closed off completely.
Well, yeah.
So a lot of their movies did not make money.
A lot of them.
The first time around.
It makes sense. War-torn Europe. And
so yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was made for almost $3 million, but it grossed $8 million.
Ooh, success.
Which for Disney was the biggest success since Snow White for sure, and that was just on the first release. On subsequent releases, it has made $95 million domestically. $315 million worldwide.
Nice.
This thing was released in 50 originally, and then 57, 65. Walt was big on the every 7 or 8 years so a new generation could experience it. 65, 73, 81, and 87. I think 87 is when I saw it. I was alive in 81, but I was only 4. I remember we saw Peter Pan when I was real little, Bambi, but I think Cinderella we did not see till I was a little older. All right, so let's see. This was a huge hit, like we said, $8 million, but
Apparently.
It was the 4th highest grossing film of the year.
Huh.
So very, very big. and it was critically a smash as well. Some of the more recent Walt movies that were more packaged films were a little bit less enthusiastically received.
Okay.
They thought, oh, well, he's just slapping together shorts, whatever. But this was a big hit critically. 3 Oscar nominations.
Ooh.
Best music score, of course.
Well, yeah.
And song. Which song do you think got nominated? So many good songs in this movie. It's probably, I would say, the most famous one.
Is the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo?
Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo is the one that got nominated.
All right.
And then it also got a nomination for Best Sound.
I can totally believe that.
Which makes sense, which of course we'll get into. So, listen, this was, like I said, the return to the full-length features. But here's the deal. By the end of the war, Walt in the studio was $4 million in debt.
Ooh.
So they needed something to hit. They needed, look, the package movies were about breaking even. So they were doing okay, and they were keeping the name out there and everything. But Disney was always drawn to this movie because of his rags to riches story. He himself
It's a Cinderella story?
is sort of a Cinderella story.
A Cinderella man.
You're right. What was that? Russell Crowe, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so first of all, I learned a lot of stuff from these
He's
bonus
excited
features.
about this one.
Because this is one I spent literally the other day like 7 hours with Cinderella, and it's an hour and 15-minute movie. So I'm just going to give you some of the highlights here of some of the things I learned.
All right, go sit back and listen.
For one thing, Walt originally did a Cinderella story in 1922. It was one of his shorts. It was a silent short, of course, back then. He did these features called Laugh-O-Grams. This is before Merry Melodies. Or no, that's Warner Brothers. Silly Symphonies is Disney. It's before the Silly Symphony stuff. It was before Mickey. But he had purchased the rights to several of these old stories. Or maybe they didn't need to be purchased. I don't know.
Some of
these, I guess, were just in the public domain.
Maybe.
But anyway, so he did, an Alice one. He did a few of them, but Cinderella was one of the biggest. And then he was going to make it a Silly Symphony short in the early 30s. And the more it got developed, the more he was thinking bigger for it. And was like, maybe, we could do something bigger with this. He hadn't done Snow White yet, but he knew, capability. So basically, he went back to the story in 1940, right before the war, and developed the characters for years. And there's all these features on the DVD about the background. So originally, the prince was a hunter. Originally, there was a turtle and a gossip crow instead of the mice. And then crows, I guess he ended up using for Dumbo anyway.
Same animation models.
And so what they did was, this is so interesting, they shot the whole movie in live action.
Ooh.
And then blew the picture up, like on the wall or whatever, and literally drew over it for their rough sketches, and then animated it that way.
So they did some rotoscoping for the modeling.
Essentially, yeah.
That's interesting because a lot of animated movies, more modern ones, would use that technique too.
Yeah.
So this may be where that comes from.
Yet another
great
pioneering
thing
that Disney did with his animators.
Man.
And so the success of this movie literally saved the studio. If Cinderella was not a hit, I don't think there would be a Disney today. There would not be. We wouldn't be talking about any of this.
It's like a combination of that, and also the fact that it sounds like it was a pretty big passion project for Walt Disney.
Huge passion project, and this is the first film that the 9 old men worked on. Now, I was not super familiar with these people, but they're called the 9 old men, and they were Disney's crew essentially. And each one kind of had a different, specifics. Like one was really good at animals, and one was, whatever. One was good at more, scenery or whatever. And they worked on all the projects from basically Snow White, and probably before. They probably worked on a lot of the shorts. But this was the first movie they all 9 worked on together.
Wow.
The reason they were called that, by the way, even though they were young at the time, is because FDR called the Supreme Court, who he did not get along with in his presidency, the 9 old men.
It's a joke.
So that's where Disney got that from. But anyway, this was a raging success. And because of it, and not just the movie, but this had a huge soundtrack, #1 soundtrack album, music publishing rights, other merchandise like toys. This is one of the first ones that he, did. Now this wasn't necessarily all on the first release, but yeah, like marketing stuff. And keep in mind, by 1950, people had TVs.
And with TVs,
so,
commercials, action figures, toys.
Right.
Yeah, it's the beginning of that.
So it's the beginning of that. And basically, it gave Disney the cash flow to finance everything in the 50s. The live action stuff that was going on, finishing Peter Pan, finishing Alice in Wonderland.
So you could say it's like the beginning of modern Disney in a way.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we talk about the different eras of Disney. And I think this, because it's the first one after all of the music shorts ones, I think this really is kind of phase 2 of Disney, because also he's in live action now. Tim and I just did So Dear to My Heart, which had about 15 minutes of animation over live action, but either this same year, 1950, or the next year was the debut of Treasure Island, which was the first all live Disney movie.
Wow.
So it financed all of that. But yeah, I think Cinderella ushers in phase 2, to be completely honest. Okay. I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's not something I thought of until now, but
it just seems like such a
pivotal. It really is a pivotal thing. This prompted him to get into the television production because it was such a success. He decided to start up the Sunday Night Disney Show, which was a staple for like 40 years, into my childhood. And what else? That's it. This helped him start to build Disneyland as well. So, this is a pivotal movie. Let's find out why. Tell us what happens in this movie, Cinderella.
I mean, first of all,
everybody knows.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of the things about like the bulk of the Disney movies. I guess they're based on fairy tales, so you probably know the story of Cinderella.
And even if you didn't, you probably have seen the movie Cinderella.
You probably
do know.
But yeah, for the few that may not know, the Cinderella title character.
Yep.
Her, she comes from, I guess, kind of a wealthy family, and her father loves her. He dies. Married a woman right before then. Turned out not the nicest person.
Best.
She's evil stepmother, 2 wicked daughters, and they basically turn into a slave. She's a servant around the house, make her life miserable, but she's still a nice person, and with the help of her fairy godmother, and in this version, a lot of animal friends, a lot of animal critters.
Yes.
She gets the dress she needs.
Tons of mice.
And a lot of them transform into other creatures to become the footman and the coachman, and the pumpkin becomes carrot.
Yeah.
And then they go to the ball, meet the prince because the king wants to, get somebody to marry his son so they can have grandkids. And he meets Cinderella, love at first sight. She runs because at the stroke of midnight, the spell.
But no one knows who she is.
And no one knows who she is because she's a nobody.
Yeah.
Not a noble. So
a scullery maid, basically.
They send out a whole bunch of people to a scullery maid. They did say that.
Right? Isn't that they said that at one point?
To go find her, and with the glass slipper that gets left behind to see if the shoe fits. And does it happen? I don't know. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. But it's the story of Cinderella. It's pretty basic. But yeah. I mean, that's the plot. I mean, I think, all right.
So wait, now before we hit air, you said to me that you have a lot to say, and you were like, don't you remember what I said about Cinderella back in the day? And I don't. I remember that you were scared of Pinocchio, and you didn't like Pinocchio. I don't remember what you said about Cinderella.
Well, there's a lot of those early Disney animated movies that I watched when I was a kid, but maybe I didn't gravitate to as much. They weren't my favorites. One of the things I've been liking about doing this show with you is going back and kind of seeing a lot of them as an adult many years later. I could appreciate it more, and I found that I've actually liked them more than I realized.
Well, and not just as a kid, through sort of a kid's lens, but I mean from an artistic standpoint,
and a historical
standpoint. I think
it's just interesting. And
I think it's very interesting.
It's been really cool to see the filmmaking process.
Yeah, I'm glad I started doing this because I think it's a lot of fun.
It is. Cinderella, though, is probably the one Disney movie of the classic animateds that I never cared to ever go back to.
Okay.
Might have watched it like once or twice, and whenever somebody brings up Cinderella as like one of the favorites, I was usually like meh, like it just didn't excite me.
Okay.
It's never one that I gravitated back to, even among the older ones. I don't know this one we own. Just never really was that interested in the story. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit further because Cinderella is one of those films that has definitely been scrutinized by more modern scholars.
Many people.
There's like a lot of Disney movies are, but this one in particular has some interesting elements. So.
And I was in the play Cinderella.
You were in the play Cinderella. So
I played a mouse.
You were one of the mice?
Yes.
So we're going to hear from one of the actors.
I sang the Cinderella song.
Cinderella.
We're going to hear from one of the actors.
I am. One of the,
like
one
I
of the
was
characters.
on Broadway or something.
One of the characters from the story.
You're
you have
right.
A personal perspective.
You're right.
So you clearly have that as well.
Yeah.
So that's
So
good.
I have that relationship with this more than any other Disney movie.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, okay. Me, I was kind of like, this one I thought was okay. And obviously, this is one that's kind of been sort of hated on because you've got clearly it was made in 1950. So, it's just, you're going to have the girl who, what can she do except, wait for a man to come make her life better. And she's just kind of stomped on the whole movie. But this is one of those movies where I actually found myself appreciating it far more as an adult for the story than I did as a kid. Like as a kid, I did not find the story that engaging.
I actually agree, and like we said, I wasn't even sure that I had seen it as a kid.
You didn't remember it
until I remembered. Oh, I saw it in the theater once, but like we didn't own it. Like it was. I think I really only saw it one time.
Yes, and I
ever
think, like,
until a week ago.
Yeah, and like you, I haven't seen it in probably at least 20 years. It's one I saw maybe a handful of times, but I didn't go back and watch it. I loved them a lot. I'd watch obsessively.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was not one of them. But the thing that's interesting is everybody always, when they discuss Cinderella and its strengths or its flaws with the character, which I'm sure we could get into if we want to, but we will. I'm going to.
We'll get into it.
But that's the interesting thing. For one thing, I want to say, and back me up on this, that's all anybody talks about. And the iconic stuff, the pumpkin, Betty Bobbity Boo, go to the ball, glass slipper, okay, all that. Stepmother, stepsisters, basic stuff beyond the Disney movie.
Yes.
Even though they are part of the movie, I forgot, this movie, all right, it's kind of potentially a strength, I guess, because it's surprising.
Okay.
But also potentially a flaw. This movie is called Cinderella, but it's only about a third Cinderella.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Maybe that's because they were doing the shorts. First of all, most of this...
But the story is, I mean,
it's around...
It goes pretty close to, from what I understand, to the original story.
Maybe.
So,
but
maybe she wasn't into that much then either.
I don't know, honestly.
Yeah.
Back us up if we're wrong here. I mean, but the mice and how integral they are, like, in some ways, most of the drama and the story from the mice and what they're trying to help her and the motivation that they have to help her is more, this could sound strange, more dynamic and complex than Cinderella herself.
Well, it is, and yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. The other thing is, before we get too far into the details here, is
I'm not done.
we both, I'm sure you're not, is that we both watched the live-action 2014 Cinderella, directed by Kenneth Branagh, our good friend.
I was going to bring it up.
Okay, for the audience, because when we did Film Fanatics, we all watched it, and we talked about it a lot at that point, but I bring it up because of all the Disney live-action remakes, other than the stupid shot-for-shot remake of Lion King, that is the one that really goes very, very close to the original story. It's obviously about 40 minutes longer, but...
Yeah, it's a good... I'm glad you brought it up, though, because I was thinking about it, and I remember, I think it was actually on the Merlin cast, go watch it with Dan here, as my last guest. We talked a bit about the Disney remakes and whether or not they were worth it, and I think we kind of, had that consensus of, like, if you're going to remake a movie, try to add something new.
Right.
And with the Disney movies, like, the best example is that Lion King shot for shot. It literally...
It's just so unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. Yeah. At least try something new.
And the one song they added was horrible.
Ugh.
But
with Cinderella live action...
They fleshed it out, but it's still the exact same story, which I liked.
Same story, but, they made it a little more complicated.
Yeah.
Which was fine. So it was a little different. I liked that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one... The mice, I forgot like how lovable they are, how interesting they are, fun. even though I can't always understand what they're saying. They're cute.
Yes, that was well.
Potential
That's
negative.
one of my problems with Donald Duck too. God bless Disney and Donald Duck, but like I have trouble understanding what Donald Duck is saying.
It's like I picked it up and I was like thinking to myself, the kid's not gonna know what they're saying. I have to strain to get every word.
Yeah.
Get rid of God, and they have their own little slang, and I'm like, if they
maybe
went,
it was easier then for kids to understand what that said. I don't know.
Like, I'm just glad they showed frames of like their plan to get stuff from the cat, because I'm like, if they didn't do that, I think
Yeah.
a kid would be confused. Like, what are they planning? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they were honestly one of the big highlights for me. Was that like more than the iconic stuff with Cinderella and her stepmother, but also, like I said, I don't know. For some reason, as a kid, this did not really, reach me. I didn't connect as much. I connect a lot more with the Cinderella character, and we're going to focus on her soon. But I have to say, the actual plot outside of this is about the king and his motivation. That's really what the movie's about, which maybe is a commentary on politics and nobility of an ancient time. Also, I'm thinking, it really is, from a man's perspective, which is. And I know that some people might say that's negative for the Cinderella character, but looking at that aspect, he was the most interesting and humorous part, his stress, and can you guess who my favorite character was?
His like toady, his lackey,
his assistant, the Grand Duke. I looked him up. Like, this guy was hilarious, and this
he was good.
The thing is too, like the nuances and the little jokes, like. I wouldn't have gotten as a kid. There's some adult ideas in there.
There's definitely,
And also, a classic Disney, there's some incredibly dark moments.
Well,
like
I thought...
subtle, but I
mean, we can give spoilers. It's Cinderella, for God's sake. I thought that... Do you remember in the live-action version when the stepmother literally cut the toes off the one daughter's thing to make her toes fit? For some reason, I thought that was going to be in this, and it wasn't.
No, it was less.
It's less gory than that, but
they do try to like jam.
There's a couple of sight gags with that, which is fine.
The sight gags are good. I'll tell you my two favorites.
But
if you don't mind.
No, your two favorite sight gags?
Well, dark humor.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
Well, the first one comes from the mice because. I forget the main mouse's name.
I'll tell you my favorite adult part of the movie after you go.
Oh, please. Well, I got two. The one with the mice is where they kind of draw straws with their tails to say he was going to go try to get something from the cat. They, of course, later gets duped into it, and they have the dun, and they like salute him, put their caps to their hearts, and the one guy's about, oh, he's dead.
Yeah,
like, that was
good.
That was pretty hilarious and dark.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known what that was.
I was like, oh, wow, that's dark. And also, really blatant, like the king says that if you don't find this person, I am going to kill you.
Murdered.
And that added a whole new context. Like when she's running away, and I was so invested because he was like, guards, stop her, get her. Because he knows that this is on him. If he doesn't get them hooked up, he is going to be beheaded.
And that's why.
And he attacks him later.
That's why when they're doing the glass slipper and he hears Cinderella upstairs and the stepmother's like, no, she's nobody.
No.
And he's like, no, I have to talk to every woman.
Also, yeah, I'm telling you, it's great. And also his another two great things. They're just very subtle, dry wits, like Like when they're introducing all the women with the ball and the guy's like, this is the person.
He's so bored by
hates his life.
Yeah.
I'm like, that guy's great. And the Archduke also, when he goes to Cinderella's house, he has to read a thing. He's clearly been doing it all day, exhausted. And he has to read this legal doc. You can tell that's some joke about legal, dry, bland stuff. There's just a lot of little nuggets.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. It's very layered. My favorite adult joke, and I don't know if it was meant as such or not, but the very opening scene, the first line of the movie, Cinderella wakes up from this dream. Oh, what a dream, or whatever. And the mice were like, oh, what was your dream about? And she looks at them and she's like, well, I can't tell you that. I just thought, oh my god. But then she says, if you tell a wish, it doesn't come true or whatever. But I was just like, oh man, she was getting it in her dream just now.
Well, she is really excited about. All right.
Look, she's never met a man before.
Right.
Like,
look, I gotta say too. Do you mind if we talk about Cinderella herself? I guess it's kind of.
I want to talk about everybody.
Okay, well,
and everything you want to talk about.
If we bounce around, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about Cinderella now.
Like a lot of Disney movies.
She woke up from a hot sex dream. What do you want?
It's the start. But no, like in addition to that, I mean, a lot of Disney movies are kind of scrutinized, as we'll see in by criticism and whatnot.
Yeah.
Song of the South,
especially
number one.
Well, yes, of course, with the racism, yes.
But you're right. Stuff that could potentially be sexist for the time, or racist, or
right.
Misbegotten good intention things. So, looking at this movie, I remember the hate of she's just a doormat. Why doesn't she do? She's basically a kid. She's under her stepmother. She can't do anything. Also, this is like 1870s, so what can she do?
Yeah, it's not present day 1950.
So let's remember that,
right.
Okay? And also, maybe she's simple, but I don't know. She's a good person. She's very nice. She might be like,
yes,
and she's a little.
I think she's a lot like Snow White in that way.
But I think she's a little less dense than Snow White.
I agree.
Like and she has a little more character. Just a little. Like my favorite line of hers was when her sisters are singing, and she's like, "Oh, I guess I better go interrupt the music lesson." Like she's got a.
That's great.
And there are little subtle moments where she's about to lose it. Like she has had it with this.
Listen, she takes her digs at people. She clearly doesn't like this life.
But she's doing her best.
But look, she basically is the only person keeping this family alive.
Ironically,
I mean, they're all just
horrible,
do nothing idiots,
and they're such. And I thought it was originally more cartoony when I was younger, but this seemed like it could be a very realistic situation. And these people are just treating her so horribly.
The sisters they're morons and horrible.
The mother's
and then the stepmother is just obviously wicked.
But the thing about the stepmother, and I do wish
I got some things to say about the stepmother.
They had fleshed her out and all the characters out a little more, obviously. The romance is the weakest part. But there is that slight difference. And I appreciate a lot of the little, first of all, the sound recording for the voice acting. Everything about that was stellar.
Yeah.
I get that now.
Yep.
But that when she's just going through her routine and she knocks on each sister's door and then the stepmother, I liked that subtle difference of character. Take the laundry, do this, make sure you get it right, get it back to me an hour. The mother was like, "Hello, child." Like, okay, don't dawdle, go. Like, it was meaner, but there is like a hint of politeness. Like, there's something else there. Like,
well, because unlike the dummy sisters,
she knows
that she needs Cinderella.
Because she's like, it would inherit everything, like some legal thing.
She knows that she needs Cinderella to keep around. The stepsisters don't really
appreciate
get that.
They're dumb.
And appreciate it, right.
They're oblivious.
Okay,
but
so
the mother's conniving. She's got a lot going on.
Yes, and so here's the thing.
Uh-oh.
No, it's all positive for the movie.
Okay.
Did you notice though
the hair?
Okay. Great hair. But there's a couple things about the stepmother. She looks more human than any of the previous villains, etc. I mean, I guess the kids in Pinocchio kind of looked like humans, but certainly the Wicked Witch in Snow White looked very
realistic,
cartoony, Wicked Witchy.
Yeah.
This woman looks, and I'm not saying she looks like CGI animation today, but I mean for the time, I think she is very well designed, well animated.
Sure.
But did you also pick up on? She hardly moves the entire movie. Most of her vileness comes from the hands and the face.
She's conniving.
And the way they animate, and obviously that's because of the rotoscoping. It's obvious to me. Like when I heard that, when I saw that in the little feature, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense because she emotes more in her little eye wrinkles and her sort of
those
bewitching kind of things and
that
her
smirk.
and her stature than the Wicked Witch did in the whole movie of Snow. And I love Snow White, but I'm just saying
Snow White
how far they've come in 10 years.
No, yeah, like the evil queen in Snow White was just a beautiful image, but I do agree she was very stiff looking by comparison.
Right.
And I don't know, it's almost like I still think Snow White and Pinocchio were just amazing feats of animation.
Of course.
But they almost seem like you could tell it's overly animated in some ways, whereas with this one, I think and you'll start noticing this more and more with a lot of the movies, especially like with Sleeping Beauty. The fluidity of it. I'm looking at it and just the way they move. And I think Cinderella's just a beautiful looking character.
Well, and they figured out
the redness of the lips.
what.
And the
oh
color.
my God! Yeah, it's gorgeous. And they animated her so well.
The way the dress is moving, I'm like, this is 1950. I'm just once again like, this is just amazing.
Here's what I actually liken it to. So Snow White came out in 37. This came out in 50. So we have 13 years between. Okay.
Sure.
To me, that is the difference between the quality. And look, Snow White was brilliantly animated. There's no denying that. Pinocchio as well.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like Toy Story in '95, the first all CGI movie,
Yeah.
up to like Nemo or The Incredibles, which was not even a decade later. And it's like it was leaps and bounds. And that to me is they figured out every single thing that like works in these features, which makes sense because they were working on all these shorts in the meantime and practicing on. And Tim and I talked a lot about the different styles of animation we saw in a lot of the different shorts and stuff. And I think, like animation-wise, I don't think the things we were looking at in this movie were necessarily groundbreaking.
No.
For the time, maybe, but scenery and stuff. Okay, we've seen stuff like that before, but like you said, the fluidity, how everything flowed together in this movie, was just brilliant.
I also have to say, I was kind of going into this movie thinking, I don't know how much I'm going to like it, because remember, it's not one of my favorites growing up,
right.
But I don't know, and I kept saying, like, I've said this when I'm going to do the Dan Does Disney, I'm like, well, I've said how detailed it is, how colored the other movies are, but yeah, it's so fluid, and this one just pops a little more than Pinocchio or something. Like, it's just like the combination of the fluidity of movement with just the way her bedroom is and just it's just a pretty, just beautiful movie.
There's always a couple of things that really jump out at me as like, wow, that's a really interesting technique or angle. And for me, one of them was the staircase. When in the castle, when you were looking up at the staircase, that was just like a great thing. And then there was one other one I had written down.
Staircase was good. Getting the scope and the scale.
Yeah. The stuff like when the carrot started turning into a pumpkin, a pumpkin turned into a carriage, like the way that everything materialized just looked so good.
And this is also something I thought, I'll definitely tell you that as like a little boy, I don't think I ever would have imagined I would have said this, but you know what is absolutely gorgeous in this movie?
Tell me. The dresses?
Her dress.
Yeah.
Her fairy godmother dress, just with the sparkle, like, I'm just, the little touches, I'm like, the little details for each one, it literally looks like it's glittering, like, 40 years later, 50 years later, that would be like a weird CGI effect.
Yeah.
That wouldn't quite look good with 2D stuff. And I'm thinking, that pops more than that would.
The way they made her dress, both versions of it, because I thought the dress that the mice made also was great.
Actually, the simpler
got destroyed,
pink one, they was good.
I think that was good too.
Also, a little thing, jump back to her character. I didn't realize how, like, I just thought initially, when I was a kid watching it, she's just so great, like Snow White, all the little animals love her, so they're just going to make a dress for her. She makes clothes for them all the time to humanize them, and they're paying her back.
The mice have little clothes
That's
on.
cute.
It's so cute.
And she likes to sew, and they're doing it because she does it for them all the time.
Right.
I never picked up on that.
I didn't pick up on that.
That was good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, she might not be like the most complex character ever, but she's not like one-dimensional.
No, I think she is much more of a well-rounded character than Snow White.
For sure.
We're sorry on Snow White.
I'm sorry, I like Snow White.
We shouldn't do that because obviously that was an A+ movie.
It was great.
First
but you got context, remember?
But look, context. We're 13 years on now. Walt has done a lot of these movies. And yeah, I mean, he's obviously, I think we can all agree that the worst part of Snow White was that it just ended. Like, it just wrapped up within 2 minutes and then it was over.
Yeah.
Which here, I also think it ends too quickly.
Yeah,
but
like, I kept looking, I'm like, wow, everything gets resolved in like 4 minutes. I'm like, how about giving the stepmother a comeuppance?
But think about this. At the time, the studio was hemorrhaging money.
I know.
So I think this needed to be make or break. I don't think Walt wanted to make it too long because he didn't want to turn people off. That's my guess. That wasn't in any of the features or anything. I don't know, but
This will lead into another part of the conversation, though.
okay.
I'm
done.
That's
my
I'm
point.
sorry. I feel like I keep taking
No,
over
that's
the
fine. That's
conversation.
my point.
I'm sorry, but okay. First of all, one little thing, because I'm sure this will lead into another conversation.
Okay.
This is a long one.
The cat's an a-hole.
Okay, the cat is the real villain of the movie. Third point.
I don't remember the cat at all in this movie, and my God, he is such a jerk.
He is a villain.
Yes, he really is.
Also, kind of dies if you didn't know, though he survives in the sequels. But
Well,
like he would have died.
I think he died.
He died. I'm sorry. I know there were sequels,
Yeah.
but he died.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Did you ever watch the sequels as an aside?
Never.
Because I never did.
Never have, but I've heard that.
Stitch in Time is one of them.
I've heard.
I forget.
I've heard Cinderella 3 is actually one of the decent direct-to-DVD ones.
Is that right?
Because it's
Okay.
kind of a subversive thing.
Oh, okay.
But maybe eventually, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Okay, third point, because of the
Okay.
cat had a lot of character, and as a cat person, and just honestly,
Yeah, we're both cat people.
I'm a cat person.
And I wanted to murder that cat.
I did
It was
too.
Awful.
But even the other animals, like the way the dog moved, Bruce,
Yeah.
somebody really studied the way dogs and cats move, because I was like the little like that's how they move.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that detail. But also, I think you're right. Maybe with things cutting off, and maybe also the time and the writing, the romance is like not there. Like that actually.
It's funny.
Like,
the romance is
like-
such an ancillary part of this movie.
like it's almost a joke, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have criticism about that, and I'll be honest, that was the only thing about the movie that made me a little angry, and I was poking fun of it a little bit. I was like, because they're dancing, they're meeting, and then it's like, oh, I don't know your name. And I'm like, yeah, because you didn't say anything to her. You fell in love, and you had no words
Yes.
were exchanged
And look,
until she's like, I gotta go.
This is where
This is the problem.
This is where the live action version
Thank you.
took the extra like half hour, fleshed out the fairy godmother, fleshed out the stepmother,
Yes.
fleshed out the romance,
Because all that stuff's like,
which all worked. I mean,
Yeah.
live action Cinderella is a good movie.
it's pretty good, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that's there, because the problems people have with this,
Yes.
Okay.
We're sort of rectified there.
thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, wow, you're right. It's like I said, it's more about the father's motivation and the mice trying to help her.
And it's funny, like
He's great.
because of what is so sort of remembered about that movie, like you said earlier. It's like
Completely
Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, it's the fairy godmother, the evil stepmother. But
I
like
forgot the other stuff.
I completely forgot that there was
A king.
a whole court there. Like I remember, I guess sort of the king, but not really.
He's got a whole. He's the
his
most
whole bit,
fleshed
I don't
out
remember.
character in the
I
movie.
remember the mice because I was the mouse in the play, but I didn't remember the cat.
The
I
cat's
didn't
like the
remember
villain.
cat at all. The birds, I guess I sort of vaguely remembered, but I just remember that as a Disney princess thing, like from
But they were there.
Enchanted, like not necessarily from Cinderella.
But they all had. But yeah, they're big parts of the movie.
Yeah,
Like, and they were bigger than
Who
Cinderella.
knew?
It's weird.
yeah,
Like she's kind of not center stage in her own movie,
right.
which is potentially a flaw, but
I'm all right with it.
it works surprisingly well because that part's so weak. Everything else
Yeah.
was very surprising, and I liked it a lot.
Do you like when they found her though? And it fit. That was good, right?
That's classic.
Okay, now here's something I didn't think of when I was a kid. I think I have the answer from my own head,
Okay.
but I want to know what you think about this.
Okay.
Why doesn't the glass slippers turn back at midnight?
Okay. This is because.
Here's what I think, but I want to
Oh.
hear. No, I want to hear what you think.
Oh, you want to
Okay,
do
here's what I
it?
think.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Because as a kid, I never even thought for 2 seconds
I
about
didn't
it.
either, yeah.
But as I'm watching it, I'm like, halfway through, actually, probably during Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, when the fairy godmother's there, I just thought to myself, wait, if the glass slippers... It was when she said, be back at midnight.
Be back
She's
at
like, midnight, it
midnight.
all ends. And I was just like,
But then she said she forgot
But-
later.
but it doesn't, does it? So, okay, here's what I think. I think because the glass slippers were basically sort of a gift from the fairy godmother. She didn't turn anything into
She
them.
actually gave her.
She actually she had gifted them to her that they didn't turn. That's what I thought. What do you think?
That's actually smart.
Did you not think that?
No, that's a good theory because
Okay.
that maybe
That's my theory.
Well, then I guess mine might be half in line with yours.
Okay.
I just said that the fairy godmother has limitations, but she can cheat, and she did because she wants Cinderella to win, and maybe
Okay.
so she might have used her
Guess
magic
that's fair.
because it's Disney, it's magic,
I think it was more that she gifted her the
which
slippers, but
would be a way of her getting around that.
yes.
Because maybe she's a fairy godmother, she's like, down the line, this will help you.
Yeah.
So because she knows that Cinderella's going to be dumb and forget, and she's going to lose her slipper and get saved anyway.
Yeah, I mean, she
I
may
forgot.
have been able to see into the future too. I don't know. Maybe she knew she was going to lose a glass slipper.
Is
I
fairy
don't know.
and this was another question I was thinking about.
I didn't think of that till just now, so I don't know.
Is fairy godmother MVP for you, or who would it be?
Of this movie,
Because there's some pretty good characters in this movie. Is the chubby mouse?
that was the one I played. Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. Without the fairy godmother, none of it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the part at the beginning where she gets berated by her family and, that part happens. But, she doesn't go to the ball at all without the fairy godmother. You don't get Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Which, by the way, is not the best song in the movie.
Yeah, I actually liked a couple other ones better.
We can talk about the soundtrack, but...
I had problems with some of the songs in the movie, to be honest with you.
Okay,
We'll
I'm
get
excited
there.
about that. But yeah, I would say she's MVP for sure.
MVP. But is she your favorite character? Do you think she's the best character in the movie?
No, I don't think she's my favorite character. She's only really in one scene, so it's hard.
That she didn't have any screen time, really.
No, they really fleshed that one out with Kate Blanchett.
Yes.
In the reboot.
I
But
think she was the stepmother. I think somebody else was the fairy godmother.
oh, I think you're right. You're right.
Was it Helen Bonham Carter or somebody like
No,
that?
no, I thought Christine Baranski was the.
Was it? I don't think I recognized her.
Oh, it was Helena Bonham Carter. Maybe
Ah.
Wait, was Kate Blanchett in that movie? Now I gotta look this
Yeah,
all
she was
up.
the stepmother. I'm pretty sure.
Then who was Christine Baranski in it?
I don't know.
I feel like she's the one who cut the
I haven't seen it in like
thing
5
of the
years
kids
or
off.
6 years.
right?
I don't know. I only saw it once.
I know. I only saw it once too. That's why
Right.
I'm so forgetful. And also Helena Bonham Carter and Kate Blanchett. I do sadly get confused when Helena Bonham Carter's not being Tim Burton.
Both British
Like in her
ladies. So,
yeah.
Weird movies and fantasy. And
All right. I always forget your
Wi-Fi
stinks. So we'll look that up. But anyway.
Okay.
Point being, is she my favorite character? No. I think my favorite character. I mean, I guess the mice collectively. I guess.
But you got to pick one, Dan.
Well, I guess Chubby Mouse for me, but I don't know. Honestly, I think Cinderella might be the best character.
Really?
Well, because listen, here's the thing. She does have a good heart. She makes the mice the little costumes. She's got a great gown. She's got a good attitude, even though she's like...
She does have a great attitude,
her
and that's
life is just the worst.
the best thing about her. She does like keep it up. Okay, yeah, he did get
Oh,
access.
you know what? Okay, hold on. I'm getting confused. Remember Into the Woods?
Into the Woods.
They did a Cinderella bit in Into the Woods. That was Christine Baranski playing the stepmother.
Okay.
Do you know who Christine Baranski is? She plays on The Good Fight and The Good Wife. Okay.
Oh, that's why he brings it up. 'Cause
So
he
that's
said,
why
well,
I know.
Good fight.
You're right. It was
Good
Kate
fight.
Blanchett was the stepmother and Helena Bonham Carter was
Which
the...
I'm surprised
I'm getting my
that
Disney live action things confused.
They blur together. After
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I mean, funniest character is certainly the people in the King's Court.
Oh, the king trying to literally kill his
I know,
friend
it was great.
with the sword is like, what is happening?
That was certainly like the comic relief.
But it was dark. He was
Who's your favorite character? Him, because you already said.
Well, the
him.
Archduke is
Yeah.
pretty hilarious.
Alright,
But
so then-
but like the best character overall written wise.
I mean, best written character to me
Probably
is probably the stepmother. But I think Cinderella is a pretty solid character in her own movie. I really do.
It's tough. Like it's kind of minimalistic with the characters they have, but there's so much
I know, that's
personality
what I mean.
through the performances and the animation.
Yeah.
That's amazing they can do that. Stepmother, I kind of wish had a little bit more. Like she had some really good scenes, but I wanted more of her.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I forgot how much the cat really is a factor.
He really is.
I
Like
actually-
the first half hour of the
is
movie,
dealing
he's
with
in it a
the cat.
lot.
And it's like, and I knew at the end, like, oh, this is gonna be the pivotal thing. The cat's gonna go after them as they're trying to get the key to the door. And I'm like, the cat's kind of the main villain of this movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, I really like the cat.
Okay.
I really did, actually.
All right, now what is your favorite song? we talked about you don't really love Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo.
Bibbidi Bobbidi and Cinderella were like, okay, these are the things about these songs.
These are the classics.
These are the classics that I remember.
Cinderella, I actually hate the Cinderella song.
Okay, look, those two songs,
I
the
hate
ones.
it so much.
All right, well, when we talk about the Disney animated musicals,
Yes.
you got to think about the classic songs. But I was like, okay, well, what are the ones from Cinderella again? Oh yeah. Bibbidi Bobbidi, Cinderella. Oh yeah, how could I forget? I'm listening to them. Okay, they're kind of catchy. They're kind of annoying. I don't understand half the lyrics. Bibbidi Bobbidi, slippity schloppity.
All right,
it's
look,
kind of magic.
it's a precursor to supercalifragilistic.
Okay, but supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, like I kind of know that. I don't know. It just
Well, they explain what the word means. in
they
the
do,
song.
which is great. Which is great.
Well,
But
it's just magic words. She's magic.
I know, but like those two, I'm like,
All right.
and they're catchy.
But I don't care for Cinderella.
Cinderella, I couldn't understand the mice.
Cinderella.
But it was the two other songs. The one about the dreams.
Yes,
was
Dreams
really good.
Make Wish Your Heart Makes. That's a
And
classic.
Also,
What about the dance song? So This Is Love.
This
nice.
is love is what makes life sweet. I liked that one.
Good one.
I actually really liked the Nightingale one.
Oh yeah, that was
That
good
was
too.
actually my favorite, and it was weird because
Yep.
I don't know if this was intentional or this was just notes, but there is a note like Nightingale. There's a note that sounds incredibly similar to Pocahontas. Listen to your heart and you will understand. It was like the
I've
same.
never seen Pocahontas.
It was the
so.
same notes. So I'm wondering if the Pocahontas songwriters were harkening back to that.
Oh, that could be.
Because it was just that one like chord
Yeah.
was the same, and I'm like, huh. I wonder if that was intentional. So I don't know. I thought that was the prettiest vocally. Personally.
There is a great deleted song from this movie that
Really?
you can actually watch on Disney Plus. It's one of their they have 5 little bonus features on Disney Plus. You can watch it on there. It is on this DVD as well, but it sort of takes the place of I guess the Cinderella song. I feel like it was like the same sort of time in the movie that they would show. So they scrapped that and did the other song. But I thought that was a really catchy song. So you can check that out. But I would say my favorite is probably the Dream song.
It was either Nightingale or the Dream one for me. Those were which are kind of earlier in the movie.
Yeah, the Dream song's like right away.
So I was like, yeah, the most iconic ones I didn't think were the best actually.
Well, they're certainly the most kid friendly.
Yeah, sing along ones.
But you know,
catchy.
I think I don't know, when you think about the classic the ones that everybody knows, I think we've seen in several of the movies now that maybe that's not the best one.
That's true.
You know,
That's
now
true.
Pinocchio, When You Wish Upon a Star, is the best because it's the greatest Disney song that's ever
They chose
been
it
made.
as their logo. You know.
I chose it as their logo. When we did the top 10 Disney songs, I chose it as number 1. But like Dumbo, the old Crow song I think was the best.
Yeah,
You know,
I still do.
and then Snow White, I think Hi Ho is a classic, but personally I like Whistle While You Work, which people know
dwarf
that one
songs are
too.
good,
And the
you
dwarf
know.
songs are all good, I guess.
Snow White song wasn't that good. I'm sorry.
The Snow White song was okay, but yeah, I agree. But it's funny. I mean, Tim and I going through all these the package films have seen so much music, from different different artists. Like they really had a lot of the '40s sort of like Andrews Sisters type sound, and some of them were actually the Andrews Sisters songs. But yeah, I mean, I feel like these songs in the animated features are just sort of more timeless. Especially like the kid-friendly ones are really timeless. And I think, to bring Toy Story up again, I think a lot of these songs harken back to I think in 100 years,
You can still be singing it.
You Got a Friend in Me, I think is
Got a friend.
still going to be as famous as When You Wish Upon a Star and that kind of stuff. I mean,
promise this is not a Toy Story
I
video.
love Toy Story.
but
I'll talk about it every day.
I know, but just quick side note. In terms of popularity, is that Randy Newman, whatever?
Randy Newman, yep.
Do you like him outside of Toy Story? Because he's notoriously hated by people.
I know he
so
is.
Is that? Do you not? What do you think of him? I don't even know.
The only other thing I like is the when he did "I Love L.A." That song. That was a good song.
Okay.
But yeah,
Just
I don't
curious.
know.
You're a music guy, so I'm like, is he actually good? I don't know.
I don't like his voice either.
God, but you don't. But you like
But
the
I
song.
think it works for the Toy Story movies. I do.
This is bad, but I think my favorite song. Who did the song where Buzz is like, "I'm gonna fly" and then doesn't? I'm gonna fly.
Randy Newman.
Was that him too?
Yeah, I will. I can't fly or whatever.
Something that was good.
Yeah,
that was
that
pretty
was Randy
good.
Newman too.
That was rocking. So I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
Well, you know,
You're a Newman fan. What can I say?
I guess.
Be it Seinfeld or Randy, you know.
All
right.
all
So,
right.
what else do you want to talk about? We've talked about so
right.
much already.
Well, look.
What else?
I know. I feel like Dan is praising this movie so much, and so am I. But we do have to. Why?
Oh, I'll grade it.
No, I know. I know.
Don't worry about that.
I know.
All right.
But we even said Cinderella's good. How do you feel about the just retrospective feminist take on it? You know, with Cinderella kind of just not.
Here's the deal.
Honestly,
I don't care.
You don't care.
No, I don't. Here's the thing.
It's gonna come up in some.
Here's
ways.
the thing. It's gonna come up a lot.
Sleeping Beauty is probably gonna be worse.
Sleeping Beauty, I think, is probably the worst of it.
Probably.
Here's why, to me, it doesn't affect me as much in Cinderella as some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Cinderella a lot like my favorite movie, Tangled.
Okay.
In that she is trapped in a place, and this is her only way out, because the stepmother might actually let her out in this way because she's gonna be a princess. That means riches for me and mine. I feel like it's always a means to an end for the stepmother.
Oh, no doubt.
And so this is she sees dollar signs and she sees royalty out of it. Which of course the movie ends, so we don't know. I think it doesn't happen. I think, but Cinderella's got a big heart. You know, Cinderella's got a big heart.
All right.
So I don't know where it goes.
Well,
but no, I honestly, I don't think of it as much of an issue.
Oh, okay. Well, how about? I mean, I'm obviously thinking of the time, but how about the fact that the only real thing she can do is, be saved by the man to take care of her and be a wife and have kids like the king's planning for, and also that great throwaway line by the mice. Oh, don't do the sewing. Leave that to the women. I had to point that out. Just have to point these.
Yeah, all right, and that's
I have to.
That's fine.
But
I mean, I watch a lot of '50s TV, and guess what? That's what
they did.
Households were in the '50s because guess what? The economy was booming, so we didn't need both parents to work. I mean, when I was in high school, my dad didn't work. He was a stay-at-home dad.
Oh, nice.
So whatever. Classic Mr. Mom. That movie does not hold up.
Confession. I've never seen it.
You know what? I saw it for the first time ever when we did the Keaton Top 5.
Really?
And it was rough.
That sucks. Okay.
But anyway, very sexist.
But this isn't sexist.
A man doing laundry? Give me the vapors. Come on. That was in the damn 80s. This is in the 50s. Look, Donna Reed, Leave It to Beaver, I Love... I mean, women stayed home in the 50s because they didn't need to work, and God bless them for it. And some did, and they wanted to, and that's great. But I don't know. I feel like
all I'm saying is
the whole Disney princess thing,
it's got
Disney princesses have to be canceled because the men save them. It's it's fine.
They change that when we get to the 90s and stuff.
Sometimes. Mulan for sure.
That's the best example.
But Frozen also.
A little bit, yeah. More involved.
But I don't think that this movie, of all the Disney movies we're going to cover, of all the things we're going to see, I think this is pretty innocuous.
Okay. Yeah, I thought as I was watching it that she wasn't as one-dimensional, weak of a character as I thought people often joke that she is.
Yeah. I think look.
She's no Belle, but...
She's no Belle. I think kids watching this today, little girls, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think everybody's got hardships. Look, the Brady Bunch did an episode on this because Bobby didn't like that the stepmom was evil. He said stepmoms don't love you. So it was a big rift between him and Carol Brady.
Oh.
Anyway.
Brady Bunch does it again.
Brady Bunch does it again. I'm a fan.
I know.
So I think this movie hits many layers, which is something I never thought of. My parents are still together. I never thought that a kid might see this movie and
stepmother is
like,
evil. She's
my
trying
stepmom
to
doesn't,
don't like me.
But listen, that's a Disney classic.
That's a fairy tale classic.
That's fairy tale classic,
that's
which is,
old.
I guess, why Disney
jumped on
utilizes it. Yeah. I mean, look, if you've got two living parents that are married in a Disney movie, I don't know what movie you're watching.
Tragedy must
It's
strike.
like that's a movie I've never seen. Like,
I mean, if it's Pixar, it's Inside Out. They're together.
That's true.
That's like the only one I can think of.
That's true. That took us about 15 Pixar movies to get to, but we made it. You're right. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, of course, a lot of the Pixar movies are not about people, but
That's one.
Ish. You know, Nemo, the mom dies immediately before the camera even rolls.
I don't know. Well, it's good tragedy. You know, they could do a story without a parent being gone or missing or whatever.
I listen. I don't disagree that the one line about like leave the.
Well, look, the reason I didn't hate that too much is because the male mouse was eager to try and do that, and she's just saying leave it to us because that's what we do. Yeah, that's what we're used to it. Not you can't because you're a man.
Right.
Like so, it wasn't inherently sexist. I don't think. For the time.
And when you think about it, the most powerful woman in the movie is a woman.
Also, yes.
Fairy Godmother. So,
and the stepmother has the most power on the evil side.
Well, that's true. On the evil side, yes.
So actually, it's more in that way.
So I think this movie is completely fine.
Also, one thing that made me happy, opening credits, which were lovely as well. I think this one was the first one I noticed there were female animators, a bunch of background artists and stuff. They were there.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about these extras.
Oh, that's right, we haven't talked about
it. Yes. So we'll get to that.
Maybe, I guess we're getting to that then.
Well, let's grade the movie. I guess
we should do it then.
Okay, all right. Well, I will say some negatives about the movie.
Okay, I was like, where are the negatives?
Hold on, there's a couple of negatives.
He's all like, yeah.
I know, I'm gung-ho about it. We've talked, another Michael Keaton movie. We've talked a lot of gung-ho. We've talked a lot about
how great it is.
But we've said some negatives.
Minor. I'm trying to bring up the negatives. I feel like
build on those a little bit.
Okay.
It's too short.
Yeah, the story
gets resolved too easily, and because of that, I would have liked to see what happens after. Do you bring the stepmom and your evil stepsisters with you? I think you do because you're Cinderella and you've got a good heart.
But are we going to talk about it? Can you give her like a, hey, I'm in charge now, listening, like something? There's no real resolution.
I'm the queen now.
I am the queen.
Do the old Abdi, whatever, Barkhad Abdi. But yeah, so I think like Snow White before it, it's way too short and resolves too quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when we've had movies recently that are longer. I mean, Song of the South was an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And the one that Tim and I did last week, So Dear to My Heart, was, I think, about the same. Maybe it was shorter, but it was not an hour and 15. I mean, that's very short.
Animated movies were more difficult to make?
I think that's part of it. And I think, as Walt said time and time again, that Walt was told time and time again by people don't want to see a 90-minute animated movie.
Oh, yeah. How wrong these people were.
But they didn't know.
Oh, it's risky. It's weird. I know. Yeah. God. Which is weird because, brief side note.
Yeah.
When I watch these Disney movies, like Cinderella, I'm like, most movies, like live-action movies from 1950, don't look this good, even by 1950 standards. So I'm like, these are mind-blowing on so many levels.
Really, really true.
Geez, what are they talking about?
I know.
No one's going to want to see this thing that looks amazing. It blows my mind now. Blow their mind. Like, what?
And by the way, I pointed this out on
weird.
One of the other ones I did with Tim, but did you watch it on Disney Plus? Cinderella?
No, I did not.
Okay. So Disney Plus gives us, and I don't know if they do it for every movie, but they did it for this. My disc one, this is a 2-disc set. Disc one didn't work. So I went to Disney Plus and watched the movie on there and the extras on the DVD. But they do the original screen aspect ratio, the square. Which maybe it's a little bit bigger than a square, but which I love because I'm so sick of watching movies from 50 years ago in a widescreen version, and I know that's not how it looked, and I know that things are getting cut off. So I applaud Disney Plus doing that. I think it's great. But anyway, I imagine if I watched it on the DVD, it would have been widescreen, which would have bumped me out. But all right, yes. So let's talk about this movie. Oh wait, other negatives. That's it. It's too short.
Too short.
Cinderella's not as
I do think
laid out as she should be.
I do think all the characters that are human, who are iconic, could be fleshed out a little more maybe with time. And I will say, even by like 1950 standards, the romance practically doesn't exist. It's literally two pretty people looking at each other in love. even by Disney
Yeah.
standards, I think it's. I'm literally was like, there's literally nothing there.
I
That-
agree.
even-
It doesn't bother me, but I agree. You're not wrong.
I mean, from a storytelling
Yes.
perspective, I think it's. There were movies back then that did it better.
Correct.
I know there were.
Well, and okay, all right. So that brings me to another
I gotta
point.
say that. You know,
I don't think the story itself
is that strong?
is it is. I'm not going to say it's not that strong, but it's not as strong as, say, Pinocchio
It's not as interesting.
or probably even Dumbo.
Huh.
I don't know. It's look.
It's blander?
Well,
That's weird
I
to
think
say.
most of the princess stories, to be honest,
They're pretty.
until you get to some of the more recent ones. I've never been. Now I did love Snow White back in the day, but I think until really you get to maybe Beauty and the Beast. Now I've never seen Little Mermaid, so I don't know about that. But I think maybe Beauty and the Beast was the first one that I really was like, okay. Now I love Snow White, but that's more because of how it looks and the history, and I love the dwarves and all of that more than it is about the princess aspect of it.
Well, the princess,
You know.
that might be a thing growing up. I didn't
So-
typically love the traditional Disney princess thing.
Right.
Though a lot of the more modern ones have been good. I'm telling you, we'll get to it in a little bit. I really do like Sleeping Beauty.
I know, and I don't know that I've ever seen Sleeping Beauty.
And I bought it.
So-
I actually watched it. I think I got it for Honey Lemon for her birthday,
Okay.
and we watched it again. And yeah, I liked that one. And I was thinking a lot when I was watching Cinderella, how
About
similar.
that. Okay.
I'm thinking how
I
much
could
of
see
this
that.
they take a lot of the
Use
color
again.
scheme, the fluidity, and the realistic animation for the designs, the king, the humor, and they transport
Well,
it
it
to
makes sense, and Cinderella was their biggest hit.
and then they kind
Ever.
of, of course, for me, they amp it up with a lot of like the hardcore fantasy and dragons and evil witches.
Love that.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Yeah.
All right, so here's the deal with this
Special features.
freaking movie. All
And
right, so
negatives.
there are 3 special features on disc 1 that I couldn't watch, but they weren't really that amazing though to
Look
me.
at this book.
So first of all, let me tell you about this booklet. This booklet tells you, it's a guide to it's a grid to what, if you click on this, you can see all these different things. It gives you the length of it.
Ooh.
And then
That's cool
on
layout.
either side, you get little descriptions of the different features. I know it's hard to see, but
There's a lot of stuff
But
in
it's
here.
like a 8-page booklet, whatever. So anyway,
Hours
here's
of content.
here's what I missed on disc 1. 2 music videos done by the new Disney kids, like the live action kids that were on Disney shows at the time. It's like Cole Sprouse and Raven and that kind of stuff. It's fine, I can miss that. And then a half-hour Cinderella stories from ESPN Classic. So it's like,
Interviews or
no, it's just like
behind.
behind the scenes, but it's sports stuff. It has nothing to do with the movie.
So like
They're just there because they're Cinderella stories.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So I looked into it because I'm like, I'd like to at least know what these are, and so luckily this thing has it, so I didn't need to look very far. And yeah, it's just this extraordinary piece features world-class athletes sharing their Cinderella stories, like the U.S. hockey team's Olympic victory. Lance Armstrong, that didn't age well. That aged worse than the
movie itself. Yeah.
Venus and Serena Williams. So it's like, it has nothing to do with the movie. So I don't care that I missed that.
Okay.
But now,
Now.
disc 2 of this thing, holy God. Now, first, I like to talk about the different things that have come out. So here's when you could have bought this movie on VHS, Laserdisc, whatever. So they released it for the first time in '88 on VHS and Laserdisc. You got a little lithograph promotion they had with it. I think this is the first time they did that. It was the best-selling video cassette of all time until E.T. came out on video finally in the late 80s.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So it was out for 2 years, and then they did the whole Disney Vault bit after selling 7 million copies. They released it again in '95, and
When I saw it, probably.
here we go. They sold 15 million VHSs, and then there's a deluxe Laserdisc version that had a bunch of extras as well.
Deluxe.
2005. This is the one I have. I've had this a long time. This is the first time on DVD. The digital transfer, all of that. The Platinum Edition, it was called.
Looks good.
3.2 million copies in the first week alone. Okay? 64 million in sales overall.
People like Cinderella.
Okay, and then all the things I'm going to get to.
Wow.
So that was out for a few years. Then the UK had a nice addition when Prince William married Kate Middleton. They had a little marriage edition of Cinderella with limited edition numbers and stuff. That was cute.
Huh.
And then in 2012 was the first Blu-ray, which I probably should get one of the Blu-ray versions. And then they released a 70th anniversary Blu-ray in 2019. So
Wow.
there's a few different versions of this.
Okay, it's a variety for you.
So okay, disc 2 features.
A
This-
plus for
here,
Dan.
here you go. These are all the features. It's like it just keeps going and going. So
Jeez.
I'll just tell you what they are, and then I'll go over some of my favorites. So there's a couple of deleted songs, including the one you can get on Disney Plus. A 17-minute featurette called "How to Look, Live, and Act Like a Princess," hosted by some girl that was on Disney Channel at the time. Didn't care about that. Okay. Then there's some interesting, like classic footage from the Perry Como show in 1950, where Eileen Woods, who's the voice of Cinderella, made an appearance and announced, "I'm going to be playing Cinderella." Like that. So that was as a classic TV fan, that was of interest to me.
That's pretty cool.
And then in that same vein, there's 3 different vintage radio show clips where they're talking about the making of Cinderella and Walt's big thing's coming and stuff. So that was really cool.
Walt's big thing's coming.
6 trailers, one for every theatrical release of the film.
Which one was the best?
I mean, the 70s and 80s ones were the ones that were the style that I remember growing up, so those ones were my favorite.
Okay.
You've got another classic TV clip, Mickey Mouse Club segment from 1958
Jeez.
with Helene Stanley, who was the live person that they drew over
Huh.
when they did the rotoscoping.
Model.
The model.
Also Cinderella.
So also Cinderella, yep. And then there's over 100 pieces and pages of artwork and designs.
Cool.
Now you mentioned a female animator.
I said there are a
There's
couple.
a 15-minute featurette called The Art of Mary Blair. And this woman goes back to the Snow White days, and it's all about her history with Disney, her animation, how she had a specific style that was very unique to her, and the other animators all knew, that's a Mary Blair piece.
Couldn't replicate
So I thought that was really cool.
Nice.
Because the one thing that stuck out to me, I should say, about the 9 old men is, they were all white old men.
Yeah, I noticed that we were looking at the credits and like, wow, there's not a single woman in these early ones.
But Mary Blair, yes, was
Cool.
an early woman that did a lot of stuff. There's a 15-minute thing, or 5-minute thing with a storyboard comparing the opening scene and song to what actually made the screen. So that was kind of cool.
Okay.
Then you've got a 15-minute featurette on the Cinderella that almost was. This is when they go into the Disney archives, and I swear to you, every time they show this, I want to get a job here. They wear the white gloves to touch everything. The guy that is doing it said that they found all these envelopes within the last few years with all hundreds and hundreds of storyboards, ideas, and all this kind of stuff about things that never were. That's when they talked about having a turtle in it instead of the mice and all that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
So that was interesting. And then there's a 39-minute featurette on the making of Cinderella. There's a part of the backstory. There's a part on the 9 old men, a part of the voices, and a part on the music. And then there's a 22-minute featurette on the 9 old men themselves. And basically what that was a round table of current animators, people that worked on The Lion King, that worked on Toy Story, that worked on The Incredibles, talking about
how great they are.
Well, because all these men lived into their 80s and 90s, so a lot of them were mentored
By those guys. That's awesome.
So they worked with them, they mentored them, whatever. And film critic Joel Siegel kind of, moderates that. But I mean, this is a treasure trove, and this is 3 versions ago. I'm sure all the Blu-ray versions have this, and probably more.
Dan, you're loving it.
I am.
I've never seen you this happy over special features before.
Because
it's so good.
When they go behind the scenes at
so
Disney,
hard.
especially now that I'm because when we did it on Snow White, it was the first movie that we did, and so I was interested in the behind the scenes stuff. But then they did more in Pinocchio and more in Dumbo, and it's
they're up in their ante.
They keep going into all these different like archival things. And Walt was notorious, if you didn't know, for recording all of his meetings and having them transcribed. So in some of these envelopes they found were literal, verbatim things of what Walt said, what Walt wanted.
I've heard that. He has records so everybody knows what everybody said.
And I mean, I'm so glad. Like, and the other reason I'm so excited about this is because all these ones that we've been doing with, like the Ichabod and Toad and Make Mine Music and Fun and Fancy, most of them have bare bones features. If they have features at all, it's like 2 or 3 shorts from the era, which is fine. I mean, but I already have those on other things. So, I mean, this is by far the most, expansive thing yet.
So far.
And I think because it ushered in a new era of Disney, like we talked about, it makes it that much more important and interesting. So, yeah, I mean, so good. How can I not geek out over it?
That's great.
So, all right, so let's talk about the movie and grade it. Well, not talk about it. We already talked about it to death. The movie, for me, it ranks up there with some of the best. Now, movie for movie, I think this is a better film, probably, than a lot of the ones we've seen.
Okay.
But I'm not grading it as high as some of those. Because I do think I think a lot of those were like, oh my god, it was the first time they ever did
it's
this.
Amazing
or,
they ever did this.
Like Fantasia, oh my god, they did this,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love Fantasia as much as some, but
I liked it a lot.
you loved it. But like Snow White's an A+, obviously, but that, I think, is more based on historical content.
Yeah. Like, if that's
You know.
that's my... I'll be
I
honest.
love Snow White as a kid, I really did, but...
I mean, and we're going through this, and like I said, historically and aesthetically and from the art, I'm appreciating the anime. Like, I'm trying to grade it by those standards, but then I look at some of the ones which most people would agree are like some of the best Disney movies, like Beauty and the Beast or something. And then I'm looking at Cinderella. I'm like, that's not the same level.
No, and so
it's
like
tough.
this ranked in in the American Film Institute, AFI does their top 100 movies or whatever. They did like a top 10 breakdown in subcategories, and they did top 10 animated. And as you would expect, 9 of the 10 were Disney. But but Cinderella was on there at number 7. And to me, this is not the 7th
Top
greatest
10.
animated movie of all time. It's just not.
No.
But it's pretty great.
It's pretty darn good.
It's pretty darn good.
Like, other than some ancillary things, like budgetary and maybe some things about the time you could pick at.
Yeah.
But really, for what it is, I didn't have any
There's
flaws.
not many negatives.
Not really.
So I'm not going to give it an A+, but I'm going to leave it with an A.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you. It's a pretty solid
Yeah.
A. But yeah, I can't give it an A+.
No.
But
the leaps and bounds that between the 13 years between Snow White and this, and keeping in mind that Walt didn't have half his animators for the entirety of World War II, so you can kind of cut out 3 or 4 years, really. I think the animation in this is gorgeous.
it's stunning.
It's stunning.
And so it's so seamless. Like, it's just
And the faces of the people.
they're
Like,
wonderful. I think I mean,
Doesn't quite deserve that A+. It really doesn't.
No, there's a few issues, but
Things are not fleshed out enough, and it's too short.
But if it was fleshed out a little more,
if maybe 1 or 2 of the songs was better.
Yeah, like Bibbidi Bobbidi.
The songs are kids' songs. I mean, the songs
But
that stick with people
once
are
again,
the kids' songs.
That's true.
And it's kids. It's made for kids.
When you compare it to a lot of like the most famous soundtracks, I mean, like with the Disney Renaissance stuff, all the songs in every movie are like doesn't matter who it's for.
But then at the same time, who was writing those songs? Elton John. Like, okay, yes, they're going to be probably pretty solid.
It's true.
Phil Collins. So.
Damn, look, battery.
We've talked it out. All right, well, we're still going. So I'm going to grade this quickly. This is an A+ DVD for sure.
Features, yeah.
I mean, I'd like it if the movie worked on disc 1, but I imagine it was great and looked great.
It's supposed to.
But yes, we've run out of room on the camera. I thought that might happen. So we'll end it there. My next movie will be with Tim. It will be Treasure Island, but I think the next one with you is Peter Pan.
Oh.
I believe that's the next one in the animated series.
Yep, I think you're right.
So we'll talk to you then. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.